Pierre has dropped an absolute bombshell which exposes Trudeau for collaborating with the Chinese government and a lab leak, potentially, that could have happened. I mean, we don't want another cerveza sickness, no thank you, but let's get right into this.
Cost, the crime, the corruption, and the cover-up. But now we know that he cannot protect our people or our country. We just received these documents that Trudeau has been covering up for years. Documents related to a massive security breach at the Trudeau government's most sensitive laboratory, where the most dangerous viruses and pathogens are studied and handled.
And I just want to take a second here to note this because, you know, he's talking about this lab, but this is exactly the type of thing that you don't want happening. I mean, do you want them studying the most dangerous viruses in the world and doing all this type of research on Canadian soil with what we just saw happen with the cerveza sickness? I mean, we don't know where it's come from, but apparently it may have come out of a lab. So just interesting how he frames it as Trudeau's lab when it's really Canada's lab, and he's probably going to keep that lab going as well. And this isn't a defense of Trudeau. I absolutely hate the guy, but I'm just noting here that he's obviously going to spin this politically a little bit.
We have learned that the Trudeau government's head of pathogens was collaborating with members of Beijing's People's Liberation Army who are responsible for bioweapons and bioterrorism. We know now that a People's Liberation Army official was able to gain personal access, walk in the door, look at computers, and has access to all of our most important virological secrets.
Isn't that absolutely insane? It just goes to show the amount of corruption that is within government and how all of this stuff, it's mind-blowing to me how all of this stuff can be kept secret for this long when you really think about it. And let me know in the chat right now if you think that we should have these type of labs in Canada, considering what's happened over the past 4 years. Potentially, I mean, nobody knows for sure. I'll keep it YouTube friendly.
If you think any of this is hyperbole, read the report yourself. This is from government documents, the Trudeau government's own documents. It says here on page 142, Winnipeg lab scientist Dr. Chu, pathogens unit, top person in that job. According to documents on page 242, quote, represents a serious and credible danger to the government of Canada as a whole, and in particular at facilities considered high security due to the potential for theft of dangerous materials attractive to terrorists and foreign entities that conduct espionage, damage the economic security of Canada, end quote. It states further on page 239, investigators assess that Dr. Chu communicated with foreign entities during her trips to China. The evidence obtained from interviews and from information collected from the electronic content of her devices reveal that this is indeed the case. As a subject matter expert with access to sensitive information and dangerous materials, Dr. Chu presents a realistic and credible threat to Canada's economic security when conducting repeated and clandestine meetings with foreign entities, end quote. Then it says Dr. Chu conducted joint research with the Major General Chen Wei of the People's Liberation Army, who, according to page 236, is a noted top virologist at the Academy of Military Medical Sciences and is China's chief biological defense expert engaged in research related to biosafety, biodefense, and bioterrorism.
That is absolutely crazy when you really think about this. And again, the corruption, unbelievable. This is the end of Trudeau. It must have to be, surely. But then again, he is a dictator, so he might carry on. I mean, let me know in the chat and in the comments whether you want Trudeau to be Prime Minister, because I hear nobody saying that they want him to be Prime Minister. And considering all the corruption that has gone on, Trudeau should be in prison, not the Prime Minister of the country. And another funny thing is, you know, before the cerveza sickness happened and broke out, there was a James Bond film that was due to be released, and it was literally about a virus and a lab leak, and it was just kind of crazy watching that film because they eventually released it late. But if you haven't watched that movie, just remember that that was meant to release at the time of the cerveza sickness, but obviously that hit, and it was filmed all before. So it's absolutely nuts when you really think about it. But
these are documents. This is right out of the government's own documents. Trudeau, what did he do when he found out about this? Did he immediately inform Canadians of the breach? Did he fire anybody? No, no one was fired. Did he call an inquiry to get to the bottom of it? No, he didn't do that either. Instead, he covered it all up. He defied 4 parliamentary orders to release these documents. When the Speaker tried to get them, he sued the Speaker to cover this up. He said it was all for national security, but now we know from a committee composed of 4 members of Parliament, including 1 Liberal, and 3 judges, and I quote, the information appears to be mostly about protecting the organization from embarrassment for failures in policy and implementation, not legitimate national security concerns, and its release is essential to hold the government to account. In other words, there was no national security reason why we couldn't have had this before. It was only because Trudeau didn't want the embarrassment before an election.
And who is Trudeau collaborating with? He's collaborating with these people right behind me, the flag that is right behind me right there. This shows the interference that China has with Canada and will really damage the relationship between China and Canada, which has been strained as far as it has at the moment. And what is going on between China and Canada, it is unbelievable. And also the United States has even sought to distance itself a little bit from Canada because it's having problems with China as well. So this is all going to damage the relationship with China, and it's also going to damage the relationship with the United States.
What did he do then? He collaborated, knowing this, he collaborated with Beijing to buy a vaccine. Could you imagine if the deal that Trudeau wanted to sign with Beijing had gone ahead and we had procured China-made vaccine after learning this information? That's what was in this guy's head. And if you think for a minute, because I know there'll be all kinds of excuses, well, he's not responsible and how could he possibly take ownership of what happens in his government? Let me quote him. He has a document called Open and Accountable Government. And I quote, as head of government, the Prime Minister has special responsibilities for national security. End quote. It's his responsibility. This is his government's lab. It's not a random university lab. It's the top lab for the Prime Minister's public health agency, and he is exclusively responsible for the machinery of government as Prime Minister of the country. So this is on Justin Trudeau. I will add one last thing. Not only did he cover it up, not only did he try to get a vaccine from China after knowing this, he called a snap election to make sure that the voting would happen before this came out. And what happened in that election? Beijing interfered to help him win it. This is a man who says he admires China's basic communist dictatorship. We cannot trust Justin Trudeau to keep our people and its country safe. We need a strong, conservative, common-sense government that will root out foreign interference, protect our critical secrets and our medical research, and stand on guard for our country to keep our people.
He didn't say he would get rid of the lab though, did he? But it is unbelievable, the corruption. It is unbelievable, the crimes that Justin Trudeau has committed against his own country. I mean, it is unbelievable that he is still in power today. And it is just crazy to me that this is all dropping right now. And considering everything that we've seen happen over the past 4 years, and all these labs exist, like the one in the UK, the one in Canada, the one that was contracted out from the United States that went to China, potentially, allegedly. But anyway, what on earth do you think? Let me know in the comments below. If you're looking for another video similar to this video, check out that video there. If you're looking for a VPN to get around Trudeau's censorship, his Bill C-11, his online safety act, use the VPN that I use, which is ExpressVPN. Go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. I will see you in the next one. Take